You're listening to episode 65 of the Confident Writer podcast with Jane Pike. Hi, awesome one. I want to talk about a subject that's been spinning around my brain space for a while now, and one that I've taken a somewhat alternative approach to, and that is goal setting as it relates to our horsing life. I have let go of the traditional goal setting process, which for someone who teaches what I teach is somewhat of a radical move. But I really noticed over a period of time that the way that I was going about things really wasn't working for me, and for whatever reason I didn't know why I was staying so attached to this way of doing things simply because that was all that I came into contact with, basically. So before we get into the conversation around that, I want to let you know that on the 19th of October, which is coming up soon, I am doing a live training called Goals, Horses and the Nervous System, and it is all about this exact topic. So I'm going to be covering everything you need to know to create an intuitive plan for you and your horse without the pressure. So one of the things that you'll learn in that training, which is something that I really don't hear talked about, is how your nervous system is influencing your ability to plan. And if I can give you a couple of examples of what that might look like, let's think about the two obvious types that pop up when I think of the planning style. They are the type A personality, so the person that has everything color-coded, that has meticulously planned out what the next 12 months to 2 years to 5 years is going to look like, and they know exactly what is happening when and how it's going to roll. So there's quite a lot of structure to how they go about things. And that can be absolutely beneficial in some ways and absolutely problematic in others. But it is really illustrative or demonstrative of where your nervous system is sitting. And when you understand that, you can see how you can make some adaptations to really allow you to be coming at the planning process from a better feeling place. The other side of it is someone that really doesn't make any sort of plan at all, that has no kind of structure and that doesn't really see the point. That is also indicative of another place that you're resting in your nervous system. And there's a whole set of understandings that we can draw on, skills, resources that we can draw on to make sure that when we're actually going about the process of visioning and creating an intention and really looking at adaptable processes that work for us and our horses, that we understand where it is we're coming from and know how to get ourselves in the best place possible to begin that work. The second part is my non-planning planning approach, which I know sounds kind of like a paradox, and I guess it is. But it's really important to me that I have a way of moving forward that's sustainable, that allows me to be a sustainable presence. That's one of my favourite phrases. That's doable, but also beyond that, that honours what's important to me and my horse. And this is something that I see left out a lot, because we get caught up in the shoulds, we get caught up in pre-designed frameworks that exist because of competition, that exists because of the environment that we're in or what it is that our training situation is. And often we can find that being completely detached from what it is that we actually want. And I know that because I'm having conversations with riders every day that tell me that how it is we're going about things simply isn't working for everyone. Now, this third point, I think, is kind of the home run, and it is practices and processes that allow you to tune into yourself, to increase your self-trust, and to give you the courage to what feels good. And for me, that is the absolute baseline. What we're ultimately wanting to create when we go out there and think about our bigger intention, our bigger vision, is the capacity to trust ourselves. We want to be able to understand how what it is we're doing feels in our body so that we can ask our body for consent when we're moving through whatever it is we're about to engage in and understand, does this feel expansive to me? Is this something that actually feels like it's in alignment with ultimately what's important to me and gives me a sense of vitality and good feeling? Or does this actually go against what it is that's important? So there's lots of different elements that form a part of that. And before I get into that, if you're interested in signing up for the training or reading more about it, jump on my website, confidentwriter.online. You have lifetime access to the recording after we finish up, and there's also the opportunity to pre-submit your questions that I will include in the training. So it's really exciting and I'm looking forward to it. So let's think about this goal setting process. And when I actually Googled goal setting, and you can even do this for yourself, what I got was a whole lot of recommendations pop up. This is when I was doing my research. A whole lot of recommendations pop up that were to do with commercial business. And it was all the language around it was all very same, like push and do this and set goals and unwavering commitment and so on and so forth. And, there's nothing wrong with that, but actually the response that I feel when I read those things is one of rejection. I'm like, whoa, hold the ship, dudes. Like, actually, the way that I work with my horse is one that I hope promotes responsiveness and adaptability and fluidity and allows me to get a sense of myself, to stay grounded and centered in the midst of whatever it is that is going on, while we are progressing or moving towards what it is that is important to us. And I just want to say that I have been a person that has bought all of the planners. Like, I have been a dedicated goal setter because I believed and I was told pretty much everywhere, and you'll be told pretty much everywhere too, that this is a process that if you don't do it, you're somehow on the back foot. That if you don't set goals and if you don't write your goals down and if you don't do this strategic process of putting a goal in the future and reverse engineering your way back and deciding on all of the steps, that you are behind before you've even started. And so you can understand that when we're kind of soaking up that kind of rhetoric and we're soaking up that kind of information, that straight off the bat, there is a huge amount of pressure to be involved in this very linear process. But the entire goal setting process, for the most part, originally has been designed with business, finance, and making money in mind. So that is a very linear system in and of itself. And then if we think about horses and perhaps a more transactional approach to horsemanship, which is I'm riding my horse to produce this specific result or to get this specific outcome, then I can see how that model could fit in with your worldview and how it is you are going about things. However, if I actually am really true to myself, that is not how I approach my riding life, and that is not how I approach my relationship with my horse. It's very much a life practice for me. It's a process of transformation. And so what I've slowly allowed myself to do, and don't get me wrong, I've still found myself clinging to some old ideas because it feels dangerous in a way to branch out and think for yourself, is how is it that I can come at this in a way where what's important to me and my intuition and my own curiosity and honoring what my horse is showing up with is the central part of this conversation, is the central part of this process, as opposed to designing something that kind of sits around us that we're trying to mold ourselves to, but ultimately doesn't allow us to shapeshift in the moment with what is really important. So the two things that I've seen come up time and time again that made me feel kind of sad in my heart and that also are really prevalent, and I know that you will relate to, is goal shame and goal panic. So goal shame is when a goal has been set and then for whatever reason it's not able to be followed through on. And the irony of this is that this often has very little to do with actual effort, meaning that the reason that that goal was not ticked off or not achieved, quote unquote, is not because the person wasn't showing up to do the work. It was because of some kind of life situation that got in the way or that was demanding something of them that took them away from the ability to do what they needed to do that thing, and or there was something that came up. So In that first instance, it could be family, it could be work was really full on, lots of things that make up the richness of who we are and actually the reality of our lives, that get in the way. Especially true if you've got young children, where you just can't have these rigid systems because you're constantly fighting against the machine. And it creates this tension within you of constant not good enoughness. So that shame cycle that results, again, sits in the nervous system as collapse. It manifests in our emotional sphere as a sense of hopelessness, of not good enoughness, of kind of despair. And then when you rest in that place for long enough, it seems kind of fruitless to actually think of even setting any form of plan or any form of framework that would allow you to move forward, because the experience that you're drawing on and the resonance of goal setting that's been held in your body and your nervous system is one that tells you that, oh, what's even the point? So that's the goal shame side of things. Goal panic is setting a goal for yourself and then feeling like that stretch is way too much, right? So when we get into goal panic, it's like either we actually get ahead of ourselves and we really get into the vision and the dream, and that's fantastic, and we kind of like go to a place that's ultimately where it is that we'd like to go. But then that chasm between where it is we are now and where it is we want to be feels like the Grand Canyon, and we actually feel like we're slipping off the edge. So both of these are problematic in that they're not honoring where it is that we're at. And when I think about both of them, and even when I think about goal setting as it's positioned currently, I feel like my whole body's falling into the future. Like I feel like I lose a sense of myself and what it is that's important to me, and the directness of the map that I have planned out limits my curiosity. Because if I'm so focused on this one place, then chances are my peripheral vision and my awareness of other possibility and potential is going to be limited. So I believe that there is a place that exists between these 2 points. I'm not suggesting that we don't want any framework at all, because what I understand about no framework is that we just free fall and we actually need some kind of structure to be free within, if that makes sense. But we also don't want to create such a rigid way of going about things that we, A, limit ourselves, B, fall into either that goal shame or goal panic cycle, and C, just create this linear path of projection which sucks the joy out of our present experience. What's really interesting, and I know I did a video a little while back in Joyride about this, when a question was posted in the group about someone's inability or seeming inability to dream and vision ahead, to kind of actually set a goal. And when I really got to thinking about this, it was specifically related to capacity. So if you think about what it takes to actually think ahead in a way that holds positive potential for you and your horse. And this, what I want you to do is do this differently from a fixed goal process. So you're not so much thinking about a destination that you're going to arrive at in terms of I won this specific thing or I ticked this specific thing off. What I want you to instead attach yourself to is a feeling state that encapsulates the relationship that exists between you and your horse. And I want you to go to that place. So for me, when I think about my horses, what's really important is that we have this relationship that's based on mutual trust, that we're free and flowing and forward and soft and responsive and relaxed. And when I think about that, there is a visual that pops into my mind's eye that really brings a smile automatically to my face. So understanding the elements that are really important to me allows me to create a plan and allows me to cultivate a means of showing up that is constantly in connection with that, but also isn't attached to how those elements come to be, meaning that I don't I'm not fixed on having this amount of lessons. I'm not fixed on this training philosophy. I'm not fixed on this, this, and this, because I understand that there are many roads that could lead me to that place. And if I can continue to cultivate self-trust, if I can continue to follow what feels good, then I understand that I'm constantly being led and creating opportunities for myself that are taking me towards that place. So the ability to hold that dream in my mind's eye, or to hold a vision in my mind's eye, requires a certain amount of vitality in the system, right? You think about what positive potential means or how that feels. There is a level of activation, there is a level of energy that sits within that. And in order for us to vision ahead, in order for us to dream ahead, we need to have the ability to hold that essence, to hold that vitality within our bodies. Now, if we don't have that, if we're in a place where our nervous system is dysregulated for whatever reason, so maybe we're sitting in a hypervigilant place, or maybe we're in a place of kind of despondency and collapse, you can see how dreaming could feel potentially quite dangerous. If you're in a place of collapse, for instance, thinking ahead feels very difficult because it challenges the energy that is currently sitting in your body. If I'm in a collapsed and depressed state and I'm asked to think about the positive possibility for my horse, chances are I can barely think about tomorrow, let alone attaching myself to something that requires so much robustness within my body. Yeah. And at the other end of the scale, we're looking at when we're in that state of hypervigilance, what we understand about that is that we're really operating from the smoke alarm part of our brain. We're not tuned into our higher wisdom when we're in that place. We're more oriented towards threat rather than positive potential. And when we're oriented towards threat, what do you think the chances are of actually getting ourselves to a place of thinking about all the stuff that we would love to happen in our lives or with our writing? It's limited, right? Because what initially pops into your mind, or what actually pops into your mind, is all the stuff that might go wrong. Or if you do allow yourself to go to that place where things feel good and you're like, wow, this is what I'd really like to see, it's immediately followed by the what ifs or the catastrophizing, and you don't take any action towards that because the actual process of doing that feels very unsafe. So this is where understanding the nervous system, giving ourselves some very tangible resources, which is what I'm going to be covering in the training, to actually get ourselves back into a good place to begin from is so important, because without that, there's no foundation. You're basically operating on super shaky ground, and there's nothing really that you can do to control your mind, because what is happening with the thoughts is really just mirroring where it is that you're sitting in your nervous system. Super interesting stuff. The intuitive side of it and the self-trust side of it is also something that relates directly to self-care. So again, when I think about the goal-setting process as it's traditionally posited, there's very little to do with how it is we're feeling, how it is we're actually allowing our lives to be created, and whether it's something that really is in alignment with how true life really is. A lot of the systems that we're talking about, the traditional systems, dare I say it, are created by white men, white middle-class businessmen who are looking for ways to make more money. Now, I know that's kind of a out there statement, but I'm just going to say that's where the traditional stuff has come from. I'm not saying everyone is like that. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with those people either, or wrong with those systems. That's completely not the case. But what I'm saying is you need to be aware of what their worldview has been and what their emphasis and priority has been in creating those systems. And then we need to work our way back from that place and go, well, is that mine? Like, is that my experience? Because as a woman, I have lots of different things that are important to me that often aren't included in those processes. Not all of them. So if you're finding yourself prickling up at that statement and going, well, Jane, actually this, I'm saying, well, great. That's not what I'm talking about then. Your system totally works, and that's fantastic. Also, if you are a person that is really attached to or enjoys and gets a lot out of the goal-setting practices that you use at the moment, I say, and honestly, this happens or comes from my whole heart, full power to you. I think that's fantastic. I really do. And there are people that really thrive on these ways of going about things. I just want to say I'm not one of them, and that I know other people aren't as well. And because there aren't any other ways of going about this that I have really come into contact with that floats my boat or sparks joy in my heart, I've decided, well, why don't we kind of create our own? There has to be a better way. And I guess the fortunate position that I am in is understanding that I have this nervous system awareness, I have this training, I have understandings and foundations that are rooted in how people feel currently and what it is that they want. And I think we can come up with something really good. I think that we can come up with a way of going about things that is alleviating the pressure, that allows us to tune into ourselves, and that really promotes the conversation between what it is we love to do and how it is we love to be. So that essence of giving and receiving, of expansion and contraction, that is in alignment with life, right? In alignment with the seasons, in alignment with how our body is, in alignment with the intuitive essence also of who we are. So I'm really, really excited to create it. I've been busy behind the scenes kind of making notes and adding things and subtracting things and thinking about what's really important and coming up with some ideas. It isn't a fixed framework. It isn't a step-by-step process. It's a set of principles that will allow you to tune back into yourself, to really promote your own intuitive understandings. And I think that a lot of us have lost that connection with ourselves. It's not that we don't have it or we never had it. It's just that it's been so muddied through the way that we are moving in the world, and also through the traditional systems of learning that we've pretty much all been a part of. So the school system, and culturally, this is actually a really interesting element to introduce. When you think about the way that our educational system has been set up, and a lot of the way that a lot of our work systems are set up as well, they don't really promote initiative. They don't really promote or ask or really offer you to put forward how it is you feel about something or what it is you think. It's very much a regurgitation process of learning and then spilling back what it is that you've learned. And then any questions that you are asked is really in relation to material of that has been presented that's someone else's ideas. I know that when I was doing an essay at school on something, I wrote a couple of paragraphs about what I thought about the subject, and I was told off for that. It's like, this is not about what you think. So I guess what I want to throw out there is that tuning into yourself and offering forward what you think is not necessarily the most promoted way of going about things. I think it's changing, but we're just talking about the traditional school system. I think for the most part, that's been true from my experience. There are definitely other educational systems that do things differently, but for the most part, that is the model that many of us have worked under. So it's really no surprise that when you get on the other side of that you find that you're not even really sure how it is you feel about something. And when it comes to the word intuition, gut feeling, instinct, it's like, well, I don't even know. So that's a really important part of it too. Tuning into yourself, being able to reignite that internal walkie-talkie system between your gut and your brain. How is it that we can get back in touch with that and kind of filter out the stuff that isn't real? And within that, it is important to have an understanding of the nature of traumatic stress, because when we ask ourselves on a somatic or body-based level how we feel about something, if there is traumatic stress in the system, which all of us have some element of just as a result of living in a modern lifestyle, but if we have been disconnected for a while or there's some stuff that hasn't been dealt with, that signal can be a little bit discombobulated. So part of what it is that we're going to discuss is how to get back in touch with our intuition in a very real way, how it is we can establish some boundaries for ourselves that are fluid and adaptable, but really honor what it is that's important to us so that when we say yes to something, that yes is coming from our gut. And when we say no to something, that no is coming from our gut too. And all of these elements that actually add up to showing up in the world in a way that feels good and where our thoughts, feelings, and what it is we're projecting are all in alignment. So I'm really excited about it. I know that was kind of a whirlpool of different thoughts and information, but the basis of it is that I really do believe that if you have been following a way of going about things in relation to planning and goal setting that hasn't been working for you, that's okay, that it doesn't work for everyone, and that we have to understand that we can shapeshift, that we can design, we can renegotiate, we can reimagine some ways that have been presented to us and bring them up to speed with what it is that's important. So I'm really excited. Have I mentioned that? I'm really excited about it. Once again, if you want to join me for the training, you can check that out on my website, confidentwriter.online. I would really love you to be there. If you've got any questions about it, flick them through to me. And certainly if you do sign up and have specific questions about planning or goal setting that has been spinning around your brain space, then flick them through to me. You'll get an email on sign up and a couple of others afterwards as well. I'll keep you up to speed with where we're at and what's happening, but you're welcome to get in touch at any time because I really want this to be an interactive process, not just me talking to you. All right, guys, have a fabulous rest of your day. I'll catch you soon.